बोला है.
Okay.
Okay.
So, hello everyone. It's me, Tuhina, and Afreen, my best friend. It's our first venture together on English literature since we are both very passionate and freaks and nerds about it. So, let's begin with a little bit of the orientation. Afreen, over to you.
Oh, so I figure I should just give the introduction kind of in the sense that we are both big nerds about English literature, and we kind of bond for literature. And then we just decided that since we talk so much about literature together, might as well record it and try to make some money out of
Yes, censor करें. This is going to be
but
censored.
but yeah, the idea is about English literature, but everything that comes under it basically. So we are going to be focusing on interactions with literature, on the very aspects of literature regarding, I don't know, from art to anthropology or even technology or science fiction, for example. And the idea is to approach it from a very integral point of view. So, not a divisive attempt of literature, but anything that integrates. So, for us, an exploration of literature as our kind of a spiritual practice for us, because it's something that captures, yes, what we both love. And and yeah, I feel like that's the aim, hopefully, of what we are attempting to do here.
Okay.
It's an offering what we are doing. Mhm. And now we can just start
Yeah.
with the first. We have two topics in mind for this first orientation. And yeah, we had a list and we chose the ones that we felt would be the most exciting to talk about.
Okay,
And
but
so,
before we
welcome.
begin with our topic, we had also planned an introduction of ourselves, and I'll be introducing Afreen. Afreen will be introducing me. So let me begin by introducing Afreen. So she looks like a ball of sunshine now, but that doesn't mean you take her casually or not seriously. That's just a surface level. Within, she is a poet, somebody who can see the depths of someone and make the person feel a little more alive than they usually are. And somebody who is depressed can feel, oh my God, if there is somebody other than Fyodor Dostoevsky who can understand me without offering the negatives of my life and making things far better than what you can imagine. Which is why, for a literature podcast, I think there is no better person than Afreen herself. And right now, coming to the material aspect of life, she has pursued her PG diploma in the University of Soas with art history, and now she has completed a double masters in global history in Austria as well as in Belgium in University of Vienna, right? So yeah, so we have here with us an English literature with a sublimity and inclination towards art history as well as global history. Okay, all the best.
Ooh, ooh, very good, very nice. You forgot to mention that we are both also Xavierites.
Yes, that's true.
Ah,
That's how we met. We
don't
met
know.
in our college and we continued and we will continue unto our die. Okay.
Xavier. Oh, ooh.
Okay. Chalo.
Okay, wow, you gave me such a good introduction, man. I feel so nice. Ball of sunshine. सब आएंगे सोलर एनर्जी मांगने.
Yeah.
um okay, now I have to introduce, which is the strangest thing to do, because whenever I tell people, I just tell them, oh, this is my best friend Tuhina. She's the love of my life. She's my absolute favorite person in the world. कोई इसके बारे में कुछ गलत ना बोले, मैं उसको पीटेगी. and and apart from that, I have really seen Tuhina. I feel like we've grown up together in the past, I think 7, 8 years. I've just seen her transform from a very good, quote unquote, good student into a very responsible teacher. I was forced to say this.
I was responsible, but as Afreen has, as a best friend, has seen all my sides, and I don't want her to reveal all that. But great. Anyway, okay, let's
um,
begin.
um,
It's okay.
yeah, give your material introduction. Tuhina is really cool. She is very intelligent and very young for her intelligence as well. She cleared her set exam. She just finished her B.Ed degree in VJTI. No, KJ Somaya. KJ Somaya. My bad.
I'm teaching at
She's
VJT.
a VJTI. My bad. And yeah, we were in Xavier's together. And one of my favorite, like, fondest memories from Xavier doing plays together, monologues together, presentations on the most random topics together. That's the highlight of our friendship for us. I feel like overall we have bonded so much over Sri Aurobindo's literature and the idea of integral yoga in general. So I feel that friendship sanctioned because I also remember Papa once telling me that friendship, a true friend is someone who walks the same path as you in the path of life, in the path of the spiritual life. So I feel like Tuhina is my only friend in that path who has the same aspirations and expectations from life and the universe that I do. So
Yes.
yeah, that's my real introduction to Tuhina.
Thank you, Afrino. Now, if we go deep into it, I think we both
अभी
might
रो
start
मत.
crying. So, so let's continue with our bright and shiny topic and very much ignored topic in these days, and that's literature. So, Afrin, can you just tell everyone what's your understanding, what's your view of literature, and what have you studied when it comes about literature rather than just into literature?
It's been very interesting because from a very young age I've been reading a lot. In fact, I would say one of my for religious texts. So not just the Quran, but also the Bible. I used to read the comic Bible, and there was always a passion for literature. I would spend hours of free volunteer work to my library, to the librarians in my school, just in exchange for some extra books to read. Because you used to get coupons for that. It's just coupons. Uh, but yeah, when I finally shifted to humanities and started taking up literature as a serious field, um, there is there is a lot of ways in which literature can be understood. Right, it can be viewed as a form of celebration. It can also have utilitarian purposes. Right, literature has so many vast and expressions. But when you actually sit, I started to do like the history of literature by David Daiches. I think he's, you know him, David. And I realized in that when you read the first, it's in 4 parts. And I was reading the first one, and you realize that the early forms of literature, especially English literature, were actually songs of worship, religious songs, and epics. So, so for me, because I'm very intrigued in expression in general, and why people choose certain aspects of things to be immortalized in the form of word, in the form of art. And then it really shows when you look at the first instincts of these words, what people wanted to be remembered by, right? And I feel like in that, maybe I'm going a bit off topic. Tuhina, you like if I'm
It's okay.
wandering too much.
No, so
but
I, I think we have,
but in general, yeah. I'll just round up what I said and then you can talk then. But in general, for me, literature is so more than whatever has been conceived by now. It's the sheer variety of expressions in itself gives literature a distinct position in our culture. That is something that be compared to, like it's like there's nothing can replace that self expression, because we as humans, we make sounds, we speak, we think, and the words come out, and every word coming out of our mouth and our hands is literature. So it's one of the most humane things that we as humans can do, right?
yes.
Ooh, that was good.
See, this is what literature does. It helps you, it not just helps you, it makes you express yourself to such an extent that you start helping people out. Anyway, so that's my takes. I feel that literature, when I started becoming a part of it in and out, was when, as a child, I was introduced to various small stories, topics, and everything. But there were books which were beyond my age, and I made it a point to understand and to go deep into it, even if I couldn't relate to it. But turns out the deeper you go into something that you do not understand, you start loving it and it becomes a part of you. So the book that really uh, pushed me like to go beyond my limits was the version of Mahabharata written by C. Rajagopalachari. And the value of literature struck me at
Mhm.
that point when I started reading Draupadi's Vastraharan, written by him in his Sanskritized English version. And it turned out that
Wow.
I was lying on my bed and I was reading the scene. And while reading, it became not just a literary part, but it became more of a real physicality where the expressions that were being given, I could relate to them as a human being is relating to another human being standing next to you. If the person feels a push, you also feel a push. So I saw that when she was being Vastraharan in English means somebody who's raped, basically. So when she was being Vastraharan, I could feel the pain, I could feel the agony, and I could feel the helplessness. So I started sobbing. I cried for over an hour, and and it was not just me as a human being crying. I could feel that's my sensei. That's my interpretation was the nature around me also started reacting to my feelings, to my understanding of things. It was such a universal feeling at that point. I realized that what that person is feeling is not necessarily something very individual, but it's connected to everybody. And one human connects to one universe, and every I think you are getting it. Let me finish my story. So now I'm reading it, I'm sobbing, and I'm reacting, responding, I'm empathizing with the character, and everything's happening. And suddenly I fell off the bed. And why did I fall off the bed? And it turned out the wind which was normal had turned into a very aggressive wind, and that wind pushed me outside. And now I'm
Mhm.
thinking,
Mhm.
is the wind also sensing the same thing as me? Or is it something that's enhancing my experience of the literature itself? Because I'm reading a word, but I'm
Yeah.
also experiencing it. So at that point, I felt, oh my God, there is something I do not
Mhm.
understand, something very vast, something more immense. Let me hold on to it as long as I can. And maybe over a period of time,
Mm-hmm.
it might become more sensible and make more sense to me. So yeah, that's what literature means to me.
Yeah, I'm also thinking like I feel when you're talking about the sobbing part, right? It feels like literature, like it's very common to say, oh, literature, reading literature makes you more empathetic, right? Time there is, I feel the heightened sensitivity to things
Right.
that otherwise you won't really recognize. It's when you read one and then it hits you. Ah, this person has felt what I am feeling right now, and but they have put it in words, right? So yeah, a very nice story though. I like that the wind got aggressive and threw you over. That was ja.
Yeah, as if the wind was feeling not that empathetic. But yes. But as we grow up, I think Afreen would agree, not agree, she could relate to it. That is literature over a period of time. It's not just now, not everybody, I think, who is listening to our podcast or will be listening to our podcast might agree or understand. But when you start reading literature for years and years and years together, and as you grow up, you mature, you realize
Mhm,
that literature is actually much more than sensitivities, not sensitivity in the sense heightened sensitivity, that's just a different thing. I'm saying in the terms of emotions, that literature is very popularly or generalized, that it's all about emotions, it's all about either intellect or some basic nature desires. But no, literature is something that adds on to your aspiration. It adds on to what you want to progress in life. So unless you have a literature by your
mhm,
side, what you are seeking will be unattainable, will feel out of reach, and will feel completely impossible. So I started reading initially as an entertainment, then my heart grew deeper and deeper, and I felt that my entertainment needs a little more of satisfaction, more nourishment. I can't deal with unhealthy literature.
mhm.
So then I met Afreen, who introduced me to n
Papa,
number of literature. We used to read right from Rumi to who else?
George Orwell.
Different interpreters. Huh?
People,
Sorry?
uh, uh, we used to read George Orwell, like from Rumi to George Orwell. ऐसा
Yes.
लाइब्रेरी में जेवियर्स का लाइब्रेरी में पग बैठने का और कुछ भी उठा के पढ़ने. Gilgamesh, I read Gilgamesh in one sitting, and Tuhina was sitting next to me reading something.
Yeah,
Yeah, we have
I
spent so
remember
many
it.
hours in our
Yeah, I remember
library.
people in the library sleeping. I remember people in the library romancing. But that's not a bad thing. I think that the books in the library make the environment so conducive to be yourself that people can do anything, and then even then they'll feel okay about it.
Oh,
So I never judge, but I
if that's what you want to look at, then yeah, okay.
I remember finishing an entire autobiography of Gandhiji and my friends chit chatting about whether God exists or not. So that's also something enhancing, and it
Uh,
shows that in library you actually find enlightened people too. So that's one of a kind.
yeah, yeah, oh, definitely, most definitely. Um, yeah, what you were talking earlier, right, about all these sensitivity, like when you are engaging with literature, right? And we are talking about broad forms of literature, so not necessarily some words written in a, but literary expressions, let's say. Um, what apart from the empathizing part, what happens also is that you are allowed to experience a vastness of being, right? There are discussions, and I'm not sure, so I will not quote directly. Read some passages also from the Mother and Sri Aurobindo, where they say that the soul consents to come here on the planet or to experience life, right? and we are here to experience life. And when you are engaging with literature, what happens is that you're also experiencing other lives. You are experiencing other characters. You're experiencing sometimes purely imaginative, fictional characters, but you're living lives that you otherwise would not have. I would have only been just Afreen Khan. But when I'm reading Shakespeare, I'm also Antonio and Bassanio and Portia at the same, right? So what happens is that it needs a certain level. That's why literature, especially poetry, nowadays it's so hard to resonate. Like hard to convince young people to enjoy poetry. Is that because you
Poetry.
need that vastness of being,
Yes,
right?
yes,
And you need to be able to experience that emotion. And if you have not trained to do that, you are gonna lose on that. So I feel उस sense में literature also plays that special role of allowing yourself to experience that vastness of being.
yes.
ऐसे
Mm.
mother बोलती है ना, my mother says, right, a flower, imagine that you are the flower, offering yourself, opening yourself up to the divine grace,
Wow.
right? And sometimes you will come across pieces of literature, especially in Sri Aurobindo. Uh, I don't remember the title, but I'll definitely share it later on. There are some poems by Sri Aurobindo that invite you to experience that opening. Am I a flower?
Yes.
No.
No, there
But
is
the
one
flower is
poem
also
that's
living.
Invitation, which relates to what you have said. And it's about
Yes,
Sri
yes.
Aurobindo narrating that he has gone on the mountains, he has experienced the vastness, and the spiritual heights are just so vast and inviting him to attain those things.
Mm-hmm. Or like, for example, Wordsworth's Daffodils, for example. It's such a cute, but why is it so universal? Because it invites you to experience nature, but in a very, in such a subtle manner, you don't even realize it. But for a moment, you are a daffodil in the sun.
Yeah.
So, so I feel in that sense, especially in the spiritual sense, literature allows you to move towards the oneness and let go of your ego in that sense. That
Yes.
individuality, having reached its fruition, and now desiring, aspiring to move towards a oneness. And yeah, it fits in very well with what you just what you're talking about, right? I got too passionate.
So that's what this podcast is all about. You need to be passionate. And now that you spoke of this line that literature allows you to be a part of the vastness. So now, I have this question? I think you can also ponder over it. That why are people nowadays afraid of that vastness?
Mhm.
Vastness isn't ending anything. In fact, it's offering you something. So why are you not open to the vastness? I have friends who are, even
That is
Afreen
such a
has
nice.
friends who are
Mhm.
excellent in their academics, excellent in their own work, their skill, everything. But when it comes to a normal, simple conversation with a little bit of profundity, we are not expecting somebody to be a Sri Aurobindo all the time, the mother all the time. I know there's nothing better than them, but at least somebody can
Okay.
aspire towards it because I have seen poets, I wouldn't name them because they are also seeking something, but these poets and authors, okay, they're still prose writers, and prose writers have the freedom to be a little no, I would say limited and not vast, but poetry is supposed to be
Mhm.
vast. Poetry is supposed to
Yeah.
eh, see within and ex- everything outside. So somebody who takes up poetry, that person
Mhm.
needs to understand that he's not catering to the senses like eyes or the bodily aspect. It's fine. There's a different genre for it. But poetry, like we had Milton, we
Mm-hmm.
had epics, we had uh, lyrical ballads. And these ballads were narrating stories. And when you remember your childhood, it only passed well because of storytelling. It passed well, it became meaningful because
Yeah.
they were there. Otherwise, childhood would be just okay, a basic time
Mm-hmm.
age of our life that just passed and we have become adults over a period of time. But no, we are still children. We are children
Yeah.
in this universe, and story is something that makes life. So, an epic and a story need not be related. Epic is basically a part of poetry that shows you the vastness with its words, with its expressions, with its mainly with its characters who are demigods. But without story, it won't make that much sense. And I think for me, I feel that people nowadays are afraid of the vastness because they are unable to accept their stories. And by their stories, I mean unable to accept themselves, their truth. And to avoid that,
Mm-hmm.
people are creating shields that put them away from their truth. Maybe if we cater to
Yeah.
this, I don't know how we will do that. Maybe through, maybe when we
Yeah.
progress
Yeah.
more on this research, we'll find an answer eventually. But I feel if we
Mm-hmm.
know the questions, the answers automatically arrive. Okay. What do you think, Afri?
Yeah. Um, Yeah, I'm just trying to think, trying to collate all of this with the social media experience, for example, which is something that all of us consume quite regularly and vastly, where you don't have any, let's say, filters, and you are only offering what you are comfortable with, what will appeal to you, right? Because the algorithm works in that manner. And then what happens is that again, you are not invited to explore in that sense, and like step out of your comfort zone. um so many of us do start up with literature when we are children, when we are kids, students of English. We are invited to explore these things. But I feel to allow yourself to experience it, also, there is an art of letting go of who you are, which our generation no longer is able to access. We are taught to be so much self introspective in that way, or like to be so numb. I was talking to a friend yesterday, and she's a very wise old lady in her 60s, and she was telling me, oh yeah, this generation, you guys, there's so much mental health issues going around and this and that. And I was like, yeah, there are many factors to it, but at the core of it is that we as a generation are growing up because we have the possibility to be more sensitive.
That's true.
But the reaction to that sensitivity is numbness, which should not be the case, right? Because it will lead you nowhere. The sensitivity, like I was telling her, that if you feel, oh, the world is a bad place, then go and do something about it. Even if it's the smallest thing, even if it's just lifting a pencil and putting it here. But if you feel you're making the world a better place by lifting this pencil, then do it. Don't run away from it.
Yeah.
Right? So I feel like that's another reason why people run away, not run away, but are unable to connect with poetry in that sense. But I mean, there are exceptions, like you do see Instagram posts and stuff like that. Um, but in general, people don't really allow themselves to experience it because it can be too overwhelming in a world that is so focused on filling us up with useless information and scaring us all the time.
Yeah. Because there
Right.
was a time I myself
So
was not
and
open to poetry to the large extent till I reached my what you say, saturation level, and I had to put myself into poetry. Otherwise, I was happy with novels, proses,
Mm-hmm.
stories as such, to engage myself and to keep myself uplifted. But then poetry is something that
Yeah,
makes you
because
self-reliant also at one point. So yeah.
and like there comes a point, right, when the world does not make sense to you. It's the inner instinct where you feel like the world is so unfair, the world is wrong, there's something not right in the way things are happening.
Yes.
You move, you explore a bit, you read poetry, you read different authors, you read different perspectives on life, and you realize no, there is something here that is worth fighting for. There is something here that we should be doing, that we should be working towards. Maybe it's just me being hyper optimistic. but there was a point where I used to be very quite pessimistic, I would say. Not very, but quite. There's a difference. and, and in that sense, then poetry can be a very scary, a very overwhelming, a very fearful thing, because you are invited to be
Mm.
more than yourself. And when your core is not settled, when your
Mhm.
foundation is not strong, when you don't know who you are, poetry can be very scary, because
Yes.
it might ask you, it might question you, it might challenge you in ways you didn't expect. And then when this world is so overwhelming, you're like, why should I even bother? Like, money, oh my God, boys and girls, oh my God, this is what thing life is about. But that's why there is an emptiness, because you realize that the soul cannot be enriched with just these things. So I think that's my answer to your question. We are way
Okay.
beyond our time limit. By the way, I don't
Yes.
think we
We have only 5 minutes now till we wrap up because Zoom is going to end in 5 minutes. Anyway, so this was our first
uh,
podcast on what is literature and its importance in our world today. And we hope to discuss it further with you all. So please comment, please share your feedback, please share your thoughts. We would like to chat with people beyond ourselves because we want to learn more and more and more. And there are some questions that came up today in
oh
this
yes.
video. We hope you ponder on them. At least it must have struck you at heart somewhere. We couldn't quote maybe a lot of things. We tried as many things to offer you. We listed some good authors, and we hope you also explore them because the as literature students, our first and foremost job after researching and loving literature is to excite other people to follow it. So I hope I wouldn't have to
Mhm.
say this again in our upcoming videos and you are automatically interested in it. Okay. Afreen has worked herself off for this. So, okay. Anything else you would like
Mhm.
to add, Afreen? We have some time left.
Mm. What's there to add? Today I woke up and I just woke up and I sat and I was meditating, and I just said to the universe, to the mother, I said, I am so excited to finally offer, put out there what I have been building up towards, you know.
And
So I'm so happy to offer, even if it's like half an hour, but this is going to make me so happy. There will be so much joy for me to talk about this topic. And I am really very excited for our upcoming discussions as well. Because I feel like there's still so much I have to learn and so much I have to offer to the world
yes.
out there. And I'm so happy I have you next to me.
Aw.